Hi, welcome back for another reading of Hot Flash Divas. Today we're reading chapter 29 titled The Other Women. Todd's lovers were the last pieces of the puzzle to fall into place. Who were they and how did they get together with Todd? I needed to know. I couldn't seem to move on with my recovery until I did. Divorce is an interesting phenomenon. While you're married, no one wants to tell you that your husband is a lying, cheating piece of cemetery dirt. Let a divorce occur, and all the gossip surfaces. Letitia phoned with the first report. I was charting patient notes in my office when she called. Phoenix, are you sitting down? Yep. Why? I heard her take a deep breath. I'm confirmed through employees here at the bank that Brandy with an I is one of Todd's little playmates while he was married. Our suspicions were correct. No one would tell me before today because they know we're friends. I closed the chart in front of me. I suspected that from the way they were behaving at the bank the day we closed our joint account. Interesting that you mentioned that day, Letitia laughed. Later in the week, she came traipsing into my office for girl talk. She pretended to be all concerned about you and wondered what the corpse handler had done. You know, the inside story. My chest felt tight. What did you tell Brandy? Oh, I just revealed a few of the highlights, like Todd throwing the coffee cup at you. When she heard about the other women, she turned so white you'd have thought Todd embalmed her. When I insinuated that he might be infected with slut cooties, she couldn't wait to get her skinny ass out of my office. The scuttlebutt is that Brandy broke it off that same day and was overheard making a doctor's appointment to get tested for STDs. Brandy forgot that banks have ears. Letitia, that fries me. She has known me for years and knew he was married. Letitia snorted. That girl has the morals of a polecat. Scene break. The next revelation occurred a week later at a convenience store near the funeral home. After my art lesson, I pulled in and topped off my gas tank. I'd never ventured inside before, but the receipt dispenser ran out of tape. Once inside, I had a hankering for a chocolate bar. A young woman that was blonde in her late teens stood sniffling while she restocked the candy bars. I cast a sideways glance in her direction while I pondered my options. I'm sorry, she said. I can't stop crying. She swiped at her nose with the sleeve of her smock. Got eye trouble? I asked as I read the label on a candy bar. She wiped her eyes with her eyes. Oh yeah, I can really pick 'em. I reached into my purse and handed her fresh tissue. I knew I would hear the whole story before I left. My dad always told me I had a flashing sign on my forehead that screamed, "Tell me your problems." Don't be so hard on yourself. Sometimes it's hard to tell the good guys from the bad ones. I put down a Snickers bar and picked up a Midnight Milky Way. Ain't that the truth? This guy seems so nice. He always wore a suit with those starched white shirts. I remember the day we met. He came in for a soda and was wearing this blue tie with dancing red chili peppers on it. I stiffened as the candy bar dropped from my grasp. I gave a tie like that to Todd for his last birthday. My hand shook as I bent to retrieve the candy. We've dated for 6 months. I thought he loved me. Tears coursed down her cheeks. I'm so stupid to believe all his bullshit. What happened? I returned the candy to its proper place and turned to look at her. Last night we had finished. You know. She looked down. I asked him when we would get engaged. He shot out of my bed and told me he had to go to work. He got dressed and sped out the door like his flaming boxer shorts were on fire. I wanted to believe that maybe it wasn't Todd, but I had given him those boxers on our last Valentine's Day together. The clerk sniffled. I haven't seen him since, and he won't return my calls. Sounds like you're lucky to get out before you wasted more of your time, like me, I thought. That's not the worst part. When I took the deposit to the bank today, I found out that until recently he was married. She dropped her face into her hands and sobbed. I committed adultery and didn't even know it. His wife probably hates me. I took a step back. Shouldn't I want to slap this girl and call her names? After the shock had faded, I felt deep empathy for her. Todd victimized her, just as he did me. This girl was barely out of her teens. Todd was old enough to be her father. What was he thinking? Then I remembered what part of Todd's body was in control, and it wasn't his conscience. I patted her shoulder. Was his name Todd? The girl looked up and froze. She turned to face me, her mouth slack with shock. I could feel a hot flash begin to roar in my chest. I pulled my jacket off before I exploded. She blew her nose and said, How did you know? I'm his ex-wife, and no, I don't hate you. We've both got screwed. I turned on my heels and marched out of the store, my body on full broil. I thought, 2 down, 1 to go. Scene break. The next Wednesday, Todd texted me while I was in my art class. You left your dad's photo album in the bookcase. We'll leave between the doors. After my art class, I drove to my former home. My palms felt sweaty on the steering wheel as I pulled onto my street. The grass looked perfect, but the bushes needed trimming, and the flowers hovered near death. I knew he wouldn't water the pansies. I strode up the walk to the porch and pulled open the glass storm door. As I bent to pick up the album, I heard a voice behind me. I wondered if I'd ever get a chance to talk to you again. I jumped back, ramming my funny bone against the door handle on the way. I whirled, rubbing my elbow. It was the next door neighbor. Hi, Ruth. You startled me. I reached down, grabbed the album, and grasped it to my chest like a shield. My heart ran laps inside my chest. This lady made the hairs on the back of my neck stand up and salute. Fanatics always do. I want to apologize to you, she said. Oh, for what? I took a step back. One of the reasons why Ruth made me uncomfortable was she only wanted to discuss politics and religion. Ultra-conservative, she belonged to a small church that handled snakes and spoke in tongues. It wasn't just the snakes. She had a crazed look in her eyes. I knew your husband was fornicating. While you were gone at night, he had Dolores over at your house. I saw them through the window. I felt my jaw drop. My gaze slid over to the brick beige house across the street. Dolores lived there with her husband, who traveled a good bit with his job. Fornicators! They're both fornicators! Ruth's eyes blazed as she pointed at Dolores' house. Why didn't you tell me before? Luke told me not to interfere with matters between a husband and wife, and you're not married now. Thanks for telling me. This will help me to achieve some closure. You need to know as a wife, I had a right to know my husband was sinning against me. Your husband was wrong to tell you otherwise. Wouldn't you want to know? Ruth crossed her arms and tilted her head as if considering the validity of my words. What do you plan to do about her? She jerked her head toward the house across the street. Nothing. Justice is in God's hands, not mine. Goodbye, Ruth. I wove my way through the shrubbery and across the grass so I wouldn't have to walk past her. I suspected that something was off in Ruth's mind, and I didn't want to excite her. On the way home, I stopped by a mattress store, bought one of those dial-a-number airbeds, and arranged for delivery the next day. Once home, I stripped the sheets off the bed and added bleach to the washers. Tears spilling down my cheeks, I heaved the mattress out of the house, dumped it curbside, and went back for the box spring. I called a meeting of the divas. We met at Starbucks and crowded around a table in the corner. Your across-the-street neighbor? In your bed? Letitia shivered. Yep, the mattress and box springs are sitting by the curb. I swallowed some of my caramel macchiato. Desperate times call for special coffee. Kat nodded as she warmed her hands on the mug holding her chai tea. Unlike the rest of the divas, she never drank coffee. That's interesting. Todd was an opportunistic cheater. Gina shook her head. A bank teller, a convenience store clerk, and a neighbor. She leaned forward, her gaze intense. Do they all know? Brandy with an eye knows because she works at my bank and I told her. She doesn't know who the other two are yet. Letitia blew her hot chocolate. She broke it off with Todd that very day. I sat down my cup and reached for a napkin. Todd broke up with the girl at the convenience store last week, the night before I met her. She asked when they would get engaged. She knows I was his wife because I told her. She didn't know he was married until after the divorce. She doesn't know anything about the other two women. What about the neighbor? Gina eyed a good-looking guy that passed the table. I pulled the scrunchie out of my hair and shook it free. She's cheating on her husband, too. The only thing Dolores doesn't know is that she was sharing Todd with two other women. Letitia grinned, so her husband doesn't know yet. I guess not, but when he finds out, I shrugged. The proverbial shit will hit the fan, said Kat. Thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoyed the chapter. Please like, subscribe, leave comments. Have a great day, be safe, and be well.